Episode 10 of the Inside the Wave podcast with the real deal,
That is me.
Coach Vern, the
Thanks for
official
having
Coach
me
Vern,
back, man. I love it.
director of martial arts at Utopia, fresh out of the cage.
Yeah, I did a cage grappling match.
How did that go?
It was fun. So last minute, Bob Duffy, a friend of ours,
Previous podcast.
yeah, he was on here, and
Guest.
he just sent a SOS on social. He says, "Hey, I just need a couple more bodies," so I signed up for
I have
it.
a body. I'm in.
I'm someone, yeah. So, and then so had a competition in the cage first time, and
It was for charity, right?
for
It was
charity.
police officers and firefighters.
Yeah.
An ideal situation was they fight each other,
Yeah.
right? However, there's not a ton of them that fight, especially at the same skill and weight class and
Correct.
experience. So they ventured outside to find great people to participate in matches to
Yep.
raise money for charity, which is
Yeah, it was
Super
an
cool.
awesome event, great turnout, great competition-esque, but a lot of community. So, it was definitely a real match.
yeah.
It was against a real skilled opponent, but we had a lot of fun with it too.
Nice.
So it was a
And I
great
know
experience.
some of our members, even I know one of our kid students went there to watch you,
Yep.
which
Mr.
is
Mark.
which is cool to put on display, let the kids see like how you step up outside of your comfort zone as well.
Yeah, Lennon was great. She high-fived me before and after.
Sweet.
And one of the things that a lot of athletes are afraid of is that fear of failure. And when you get through that obstacle in your own mind,
Yeah.
no one is upset, no one's disappointed in you. Everyone's just proud that you went out there in the first place. So
And it's so funny. That's not funny, but how often you lose in a night of training.
it's all the time.
Like it literally in an hour of training, you lose, whether it's a tap out or it's like you lost position or you went for a move and it didn't work. But then when you do it on display and it's in a cage in front of other people that are kind of even half-ass watching,
Right.
it's like a totally different experience.
Yeah, it's different. Walking into that cage, I walked in and I looked around. I said, "This is real. This is different," and it was exciting. It was for sure.
It definitely went better than one of my first cage grappling matches, where I went up against a 300 plus pound guy without a shirt on.
Oh man,
I have a video of it, man. I was in deep half under the guy, no shirt on, and he was just laying on top of me, like doing the splits in deep
Rough.
half. And I literally remember having to move skin away from my face. So I hope I'm not dissuading anyone from training. I will find the photo. I have the photo of it somewhere.
you just gotta do some research.
And like
before.
I had Scott Houston in one corner, and Freeland in the other. Scott was just watching,
Great.
but he was like coaching me. And I just remember like neither of them knew how to coach me out of the situation because the guy was just so big. They're like, try to move.
Yeah,
But like you go against someone like that and you're like, slap hands, bump fists. You're like, oh, I can't get gi grips.
nope.
Do I go for a takedown because I'm going to turn out like a pancake?
Yeah, there's just like so much mental jujitsu happening,
Like
and
before the
physical,
match.
and physical jujitsu before. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I think that's really a really fitting subject that you stepped outside your comfort zone, because today we want to talk about personal growth, mindset, fixed mindset, growth mindset. But let's start out. What is a mindset?
yeah. It's how you approach. For mindset, for me, it's how you approach your everyday life and different aspects of your life. A lot of people think personal development is a lot of like rah, everything is positive.
Yeah.
But personal development and mindset is really about how you check in with yourself and how you approach obstacles in your life. And as we talk about mindset, we'll talk about the different mindsets that someone can have.
Yeah.
The big two are like growth mindset and then fixed mindset. So
Yeah.
it's really good to like define those and then build some strategies around that. So we'll probably discuss all of that in great length.
Well, one of the best definitions of mindset, and I think we mentioned it even on the podcast I did with one of my coaches, Mark England, it's the story about yourself that you tell yourself. Right. And it comes down to communication. And that story, just like any other story, the words you say are important. How you say those words are important. Like the tonality of words are important. The cadence of those words are important. So I always like circling back to, we talk about a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. What does that story in their head look like in each of those situations?
Yeah. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And those are like the big things. And speaking on that, and I think Mark talked about it, is thoughts become words, words become actions become habits become like your destiny.
Yeah.
Right. So like, where can you start making some of those small shifts, and you can start making those small shifts in your thought patterns,
and eventually turns into that, you say destiny, but it's also that identity change.
Right. Correct.
Right. Where at some point in time, you started off as someone that started jujitsu, and then you built the habit of doing jujitsu.
Yep.
And then you got into coaching. But at some point in time, like, you became a coach. At some point in time, you became a person that does jujitsu. Like,
Correct.
There's no question about it. You don't think about it. It's part of me. It's something I do.
Correct.
The reps, a lot of reps.
That is it.
So let's talk about the hoorah-rah.
About personal development. Yeah. So, and this, me and you have had really some great experiences in some of the coaching groups that we're in. I've had a lot better of experiences. Maybe you haven't. And that kind of led you to getting some good people. But there's a notion of this personal development that we're all sitting in a room, we're all drinking the Kool-Aid. It's like a cult, and all of it is thinking about like positivity.
Yeah.
And what real personal development looks like. And I like to use this story, is imagine you have a garden, right? And this goes into mindset as well. You have a garden and you start to see weeds pop up. A lot of people that think about personal development is those weeds pop up and you're like, that's okay. That's supposed to happen. It's all right. It's going to fix itself. Personal development in an effective manner is, I have weeds in my garden. That's a problem. And I need to create some action. I need to get rid of those weeds.
Yeah.
And so
you need to decide and do.
Right. So, and this is one of my favorite sweatshirts, by the way. Perry got this for me at one of our events.
I wore my Average Sucks one last night.
I love it.
I wear it to bed every night. Fun fact, do your pockets connect in it?
They don't.
I know.
That's so
anyways,
cool. Then I don't have to have the big kangaroo pouch.
I know.
So
Tangent.
I don't lose my stuff.
Sweatshirt.
But yeah, so and then there's this like a counterfeit growth mindset, where that there's a problem, but you don't have the courage enough to like do anything about it. So that's like a lot like the victim mentality, where like, why does it have to be me that has weeds in the garden?
Yeah.
When everyone that has a garden has,
and that
weeds.
Victim mentality, it's a bitch.
It is.
Right. It's not something that you can just get rid of.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's easy to have it.
It's fun to have it.
It's fun. You get to create stories and get attention.
You always have a story to tell someone.
Always.
So what does a person with a, that has gone through personal development, that has built up skills and tools, what do they do with the garden? Do they just blowtorch that bitch, or what?
Well, so that's where like choices come in to play. And personal development is a toolbox. And through that toolbox is a bunch of different tools, and some of them are effective. It's kind of like you're building a house. It's like, could you build a house with just a hammer? You could, but it's going to take forever. And it's probably not going to look very pretty.
Yeah.
So it's taking all of these tools, and when we're talking about mindset is a tool that is utilized, but you also have other tools like goal setting and introspection and meditation and gratitude practices, journaling, all those things. So it's a collection of utilizing all of those different tools within personal development to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Nice.
Is torching the garden a good idea? I don't know your situation.
Yeah.
I have some ideas, but I've gotten out of giving people advice because I don't know your life story.
Yeah.
So
what are some of the tools you use on a regular basis?
So for me, I would like to think growth mindset is very nuanced. Today, we're going to talk about it in general, but with growth mindset, you can have a growth mindset in one particular area of your life,
Mm.
but have a fixed mindset in a totally different area. And one of the examples I use is a lot of people that get into jujitsu and they love it, they start developing a growth mindset. They start seeing the results and they're like, okay, I can get really good at this. But
Mm.
then they're a fixed mindset in relationships. So they'll say, I can't ever find the right person, or I'm always getting dumped, or there's no good people out there anymore. And those are fixed mindset beliefs. And it comes down to limited beliefs. So you can have a growth mindset in different aspects of your life while still maintaining fixed mindsets in others. So it's being conscious of those and using what I use is this the truth? Am I using an absolute here?
Yeah.
And that's like one of the biggest. And
Yeah.
I use that with other people.
Always, never.
Yep. So that's the biggest tool. And then I look at where I've been, look at the obstacles that I've already overcome. And when it comes to like a new challenge, I say, well, I've made it through a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
I can make it through this as well.
Yeah.
So that's probably those are like my big top growth mindset tools that I use.
It's a huge tool that I use, you know, in our kids' classes, for example, right? A kid comes in and is like, school was tough today. Like the whole day, like every day of
Right.
school, like at what moment did it become tough?
Right.
Like it was tough from the minute you walked in the door. You know, was lunch tough? Was recess tough? Was reading tough? You know, a lot of times we set absolutes and we don't even use those absolute setting words. Like
Correct.
I always get dumped. School is always hard. I think one of the best tools that I use is really trying to be precise, right? Like what exact thing is tough? Man, my jiu-jitsu sucks today. Maybe my side control escapes suck, right?
Correct.
It's probably not all of my jiu-jitsu. It's probably one specific thing. Or maybe it's like, man, I just fucking sucked at getting an underhook.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a crazy concept because a lot of people at the academy were talking about cage grappling, and a lot of people are like, how was your match? I said, I think it went really great.
Yeah.
I had really great control.
You're like on top the whole time.
And then I mentioned, I was like, the very specific thing that happened is I got gassed in the third round and I couldn't posture up anymore, and he got a triangle. And so like, and it's really powerful when you can take an event that is universal and then start attaching different like meanings to it. And when you attach a different meaning of Mark England, you get a different emotion. Yeah. You know, and I know Burnoff talks a lot about that as well, as you can take an event and make it whatever you want. You
apply a label to it, right?
Label, meaning.
You can't change the event, but you can change the label that you put on it.
Yep.
Very cool. P.S. Maybe it was my first jiu-jitsu match ever. One of my first jiu-jitsu matches, I lost from a triangle. Similar match, like on top the whole time. The guy starts to go for a triangle. I was like, man, I know a triangle defense. I'm just going to pass the guard with this thing. Yep. And he just like slaps it on. It's like tap, tap, tap. I'm like,
it happens.
Never doing that again. Lesson learned.
It happens.
Lesson learned. What was the biggest thing you learned in your match?
I learned that my top game matters.
Yeah.
Previously to that event, I used to play a lot of bottom open guard and just kind of like work through without any game plan. Yeah. That I went into the match, I said, hey, I'm going to try to get a takedown and I'm going to establish top position. Yep. So I learned that works. And
get on top, stay on top, right? Like
fundamental beliefs.
The goal in jiu-jitsu. Do you need a sick ass bottom game in jiu-jitsu? For sure, because you're not going to start on top of everyone.
Yeah. So I had a game plan. So I learned that having some sort of conceptual game plan works a lot better than just going to a match hoping for the best. Yeah. So I learned that. And then I just learned that, hey, I do need to work on a little bit more of my strength and cardio. Because I'm a runner. I have the rucksack, but I need to do strength as well as like cardio and find some balance between those two.
Yeah. I know a good strength training gym.
Yeah, I know you got one.
For those of you that don't know, our podcast crew runs one of the sickest gyms in Milwaukee, Social Candy. So
yeah, it's a secret.
It is secret. It's a secret that if you're interested, I know someone.
I know someone that knows someone.
So man, fixed mindset, growth mindset. A lot of people aren't gonna know this. It's becoming more and more popular.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What's the difference? How do you get there? How do you get out of there? How do you shift?
So growth mindset is like one of those key terms that you kind of hear a lot of, but I think there's like a common knowledge aspect of it, but let's like define fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is the belief that everything is set in stone, that your beliefs, your values, your actions, who you are as a person, your environment, all these different aspects of your life are set in stone. They're never going to change. You just who you are. You are who you are. And there's nothing that can change about it.
Man, so it's like the opposite of extreme ownership, right? It's like the lack of ownership.
Correct.
You know, you're just going to let life happen to you. That doesn't sound fun.
No, it doesn't sound fun, but when we talk about stories, they tell a very attention-oriented story.
Yeah, and it's true. They're exciting.
Tell me more. Tell me more about all the suffering and all the pain and everything that hasn't gone your way, because people are empathetic and they're caring and they're kind, and we want to listen and we want to help.
Dude, and then the worst is when you have two people that like battle at whose story's the worst.
Yeah. First one to the bottom.
Oh God, what a terrible race.
Yeah. So the thing with the fixed mindset, like, and if you have a fixed mindset, or if you're trying to help someone with a fixed mindset, the first thing you have to do is just like validate. I think it's important to say, hey, I see you. Like, I hear you. Everything that's happening, probably the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And then getting them to think logically and ask those questions. Is it always this way?
Yeah.
Or are you never satisfied? And then go emotional with it. And then one of the strategies that I use with that logical and emotional, I say, well, tell me like a contrasting statement. Like if you're feeling down, well, tell me like a time where you felt happy. And then you'll get a story from that. And you'll ask like, well, are you doing those things anymore? Do you still have access to that part of your life? And then slowly giving them the affirmation that they are great, that they do have potential, that they do have these wins, and celebrate and collect those wins over time.
Yeah. I mean, I found similar that you often just need to open up people to the idea that it could be different.
Yeah.
To like a new idea, right? Where they get so good at telling their victim story that you need to find an out, help them with an out to tell a new story.
Yeah. And then I think vulnerability is a big part of it too. We've all been there. We've all said things that, was a limited belief. And I think opening up yourself to someone else and say, hey, like, I don't know what you're exactly going through, but I've been somewhere similar. And here's what I did. And one of the biggest things that I ask if they are open for an alternative. New idea. Are you open to a different perspective on this? And then the 3 H's, do you want help? Do you want to be heard, or do you need a hug?
Yeah.
And I think that we always go into this problem solving mindset when we're trying to help someone else. But I think a lot of the times we have to be open to just them venting about it. And then asking, hey, do you want to change?
Yeah, and I feel like we often end up, I shouldn't even say we, some people often end up on either spectrum, right? So someone tells you their story, their victim mindset story. One of two things happens that don't result in good things in either direction. Number one is you try to fix it right away, and you get hard resistance because they're not open to fixing it. You have to remember that people love the story that they're telling, and they're damn good at it.
Right.
The other side, and question for you on this, trauma bonding. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Like where someone tells you that story and you actually bond over that trauma and you kind of feed into that story.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes where you get the two fixed mindsets in the room and they start like, whose story is worse? Yeah. Hey, now we're best friends because we have a terrible story. Like, how do you, like, neither of those end up being a good result, right? How do you stay towards that middle? How do you detach from the trauma bond, but also show empathy? How do you help them without being pushed away?
That's a great question. My answer for that is their problem is their problem. A lot of times we get so emotionally invested,
Yeah.
that trauma bond, like, oh yeah, I've gone through something horrible too. And
Yeah.
right now in this moment, it's not about you anymore. It's about helping that other person in whatever regards
Mm,
that means. So the biggest tip for helping someone is communicating for them.
yeah. Because man, I feel like sometimes when you try to show empathy with someone or sympathy, two different things, but if someone tells you that story, you want to share a moment in your life that
Mhm.
was like just to show that like I get you,
Yeah.
right? So I share a story around the same lines that happened to me that shows I get you. But that doesn't necessarily serve the conversation, right? You don't need to
Right.
do something. You don't need to have that trauma bond to show empathy or sympathy.
That is correct. I agree.
Um, it's hard to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it's one of those
I've
things you
been
just
there.
need reps and
Yeah.
reps.
It definitely can be a trap.
Yeah.
Being conscious of it and putting yourself in their position doesn't always necessarily mean you need to tell your story for that, for
Yeah.
them to like understand. I think most people will, we're all humans and we all have these events in our lives, and when you can kind of disassociate from like what they're going through,
Yeah.
you have, it's like watching a movie.
Yeah.
Like you're watching the thing unfold as you're watching a movie, and you can change the script, and you can, focus on something else and look at it from a totally different perspective versus that person actually being in it. You can kind of see some different angles.
Man, it reminds me of it's like an NLP hypnotist thing. Have I told you about this one? The movie? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. So, man, like if you have a picture in your head, like if you're a visual person and you see something that's happened to you as a picture,
Mhm.
a hypnotist's hypnotic therapy way to do it is to picture yourself in a movie theater watching the movie.
Oh,
Right. So you're not in the movie, but you're watching yourself in the movie, which is like one removal of like detachment.
got it.
And what you can do, it's wild. I've done this before. You can change the movie. Like you can slow it down. You can make it black and white, whatever it might be to reduce the intensity of it. Like you can like take your glasses off and make it a little blurry. Right. So you reduce the intensity, but then you can detach more. So pretend you're in by the projector, watching yourself watching the movie, right? And you could keep detaching like that to reduce the impact that visualization makes on you.
Got it.
It's like it's just a super weird thing.
Yeah, I have a tool that's similar to that, especially when kids are saying like I can't do something,
Yeah.
or no one likes me.
Yeah.
I make them say it in a Mickey Mouse voice,
Yeah.
and it makes it like sound really silly, and it messes up that pattern where they have that attachment where they're sad when they say no one likes me.
And that's a great one for auditory, right? A lot of times when we have these struggles that we're having, these road bumps, these fixed mindsets, they show up differently for different people, right? Some people see it visually. They paint the picture in their head. They see the movie play out in their head, right? It might be a thing that you say to yourself, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Nobody likes me, right? That's not a movie. You don't necessarily see that as a picture unless you do see that as a picture.
Right.
But a lot of people, that's words in their head. So how do you change those words in the head? Well, say it twice as slow. Say it with a different tone. Say it backwards, like whatever it might be. And then kinesthetic people try to move where you feel it. Like if you feel something and you feel it like in your chest, try to move it to your shoulder.
Yeah.
It's just so weird that don't knock it unless you try it.
Right.
Because it may give you a 1% advantage. And this is something that we talk about as part of our core values at Utopia. If it works, it made you better. If it didn't work, you're in the exact spot that you were before. Give it a shot. It's like a multivitamin, right? I take a multivitamin every morning. I don't know if it actually helps, but it might.
no harm. Right. Awesome. So I think we covered fixed.
Yeah.
I think we got that.
And slightly like how to shift people out of it.
Yeah.
So what is a growth mindset though?
Most people, when they are born, and I'm ruling out like cognitive or neurological or like physical limitations, but they're a baby, and then they observe their environment, and they are starting to see people move around, and they're like, I want to do that. And they start crawling. They don't know what crawling is.
Yeah.
There's no seminar. There's no 3-day, workshop. There's no instructional on that. And then they start saying like, people, I want to walk.
Yeah.
So they stand up,
Start walking.
try to start walking. They fall down.
Yeah.
And then they keep going, and they keep trying, and they keep trying. And never once is the baby like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I'm just going to stick to crawling. So instinctually, we have adopted a growth mindset as a child. And around 4 to 7 years old is when we start getting these outside influences where we can't do something. Stop doing that. You're not allowed to do that.
Oh.
You can't do that. And then they start
believing, like our family.
Yeah. Or
right?
We don't do that.
Yeah.
And then maybe that was the intention was pure as usual, but then they start saying to themselves, well, if I can't do that, then I might not be able to do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do this, and I can't do this. And they start telling themselves that over time. And then they shift to a fixed mindset.
Man, I remember as a kid, like, the fitness tests in school, right? Where you got to go up there, you got to do a pull-up. There's like 2 pull-up bars in class, so everyone's watching you, right? So you go up there, you go do a pull-up, and you can't do one. And I instantly was like, man, I can't do a pull-up. And then the teacher's like, you could do a flexed arm. You can't do a pull-up. You could do a flexed arm hang instead. It's like, I can't do a pull-up? Like, thanks for the label.
Yeah, thanks. So everyone, minus disabilities or, all those, they're developed instinctually with a growth mindset. So what do we do when we have a child that we have a student athlete who is just a growth mindset kid?
They are one already.
They are one already.
Okay.
So how do we still build that? Because if we're just paying attention to all the fixed mindset people in the world, those growth mindset people, they won't continue to grow because they don't have the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for growth mindset individuals is they need a challenge, and they still need a little bit of affirmation. They still need like to be acknowledged for like the hard work that they're putting in.
Yeah.
But those kids really need the challenge to push them further out of their comfort zone, or they'll get bored.
Yeah.
So, and then for adults as well, if you are a growth mindset, like a true growth mindset across the board and finances and your business and your relationships,
like in every area,
like what can you do to step further out of that comfort zone? Maybe you take a cage grappling match. Maybe you hike. Maybe you do something that you've wanted to do, but something for whatever reason has kind of prevented you up to that point, and do that thing and just keep adding to that resume of all those things that you've accomplished. David Goggins talks about the cookie jar, and that's more for like the people that are struggling with fixed mindset. But man, look at that cookie jar when you're a growth mindset. You're like, I need to add something more. I need to go above and beyond. I need to go
carry the boats.
Who's going to carry them? So I think that's a really good strategy for growth mindset people is what else can you accomplish?
Yeah. Do you think it's more important for adults to have a growth mindset or kids, or both? And do you see like a relationship in it? Like, if a kid has a fixed mindset, you can oftentimes look at that parent as like, oh, that parent has a fixed mindset as well.
Yeah. You could definitely see like correlations with that. I think both need to have and adopt a growth mindset for different reasons. One, kids are more malleable.
Yeah.
So if you can get them in and out of fixed mindset and growth mindset, just the situation based, if that kid stays a fixed mindset kid, they're going to grow up into a fixed mindset adult.
Yeah.
Unless there's some extreme intervention, maybe they have that friend that doesn't give up on them and that says, hey, like
they have an event and they slap a great label on it.
Yeah. So like, hey, like you can do something about this. A lot of people that with that fixed mindset, they do believe that there's no hope, that nothing's going to change. So I would say it's important for both, one, for parents and adults to adopt it, because that's what the kids are looking up to. That's what the kids see and they're trying to model. So when you're using growth mindset language, a lot of that trickles down to the kids, you know, and like teachers and parents and coaches, like that's who they're spending their time with a lot. And then developing friend groups within those communities, having that support that's positive versus having the friends that you can just get that are usually the troublemakers. And
and for adults, it's being congruent with it as well, right? You can talk growth mindset all day, but if you're not showing that growth mindset, like yourself jumping into a cage in front of your students, like that speaks way more volumes than talking about growth mindset. Like, hey guys, you should go compete. It's great for you. You stepped up and you went and you did it.
Yeah. I will tell you the only reason why I compete is because we talk about competing.
Yeah.
I love the art of jiu-jitsu. I love coaching jiu-jitsu. I don't compete for me. I compete just to show up and show the kids that, hey, like if I can do this, you guys
like
can do this.
You don't need to do it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't need to do it for myself. You know, I'm happy with where I'm at with my jiu-jitsu, with my life. A competition adds another element to it, and I use it as a skills check.
Yeah.
You know, so and then I use those competitions and those grappling matches as a segue to like, hey, I know I talk about this and I talk about the importance of competing. Watch me do it.
Do you think a fixed mindset is ever beneficial to be able to like turn one on, whether it's like a high pressure situation, wherever, where you just need to focus on stability and like, all I need to do is stay here. I'm good to go where I'm at right now. I shouldn't focus on growth.
I think
wear like a piece of armor.
I think that fixed mindset and being content, I think, are two different things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think being fixed is I can't do anything about it. Being content is I don't need to do anything about it.
Yeah, I don't need to be in growth mode right now.
I don't need to you know, focus on my business as much. I need to focus on my family more. I don't need to focus on getting more money. I need to focus on my health more. So with that, I would say there's aspects of your life that I bet you're probably content in. And I wouldn't necessarily say you're a fixed mindset in that. I think you're okay with where you're at. But I also would recommend looking at the areas that you maybe have neglected or need some improvement on and see where your mindset is in there and see if it is a growth mindset or a fixed mindset.
Yeah. Let's talk about participation trophies, participation awards. So we use them at our academy when we do our in-house tournament. We're very select with it for certain age groups.
Yeah. It is a strategic participation trophy. Not everyone gets them.
Yeah.
We view at a young age, if you compete, you show up and you perform, and I think it's only for our 5-year-olds, which is
5 and under. Yeah.
5 and under. If you compete, you showed up and you performed and you did your match, regardless if you won or lost, you showed up and you won.
Like they're young enough that awarding them with a participation trophy encourages a growth mindset for that developmental stage for the kids.
Yeah.
What happens when you start giving them to everyone?
I personally think when you hand out participation trophies to everyone, I think the kids that get them feel worse because they know that part of them feels like they don't deserve it.
You got that medal for last place.
And then I think on the opposite side of that, with those high performers, they're like, well, it doesn't matter if I try my best. I'm
Mm.
still going to get a trophy.
Yeah, I don't have to work that hard.
I don't have to work that hard. And then that does not play out well in the real world when you're in a competitive job market or trying to get into a competitive school.
Yeah.
Or X, Y, and Z, trying to find your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, all those things that translate to parts of those, early childhood development areas in your life.
Man, it makes me think of I had a huge breakthrough a couple of years ago on limiting beliefs. And we talk about limiting beliefs create a fixed mindset, right? One of my old ones that used to trickle through my head and it still pops up. They always do. I'm not good enough. Obvious one. I feel like a lot of people have that one. We recognize that is one. The other one that hit me like a 80-pound bag of bricks was I'm already doing well, or like I am good at this, right? Which is interesting because a lot of people have the limiting belief of like, I can't do this. But another deadly one, it's a hidden one, is I am good at this. Because the second you say I'm good at this, it gives you a out from needing to become better.
Right.
And I feel like participation trophies it's like kind of like giving myself a participation trophy, right? Like, hey, I'm giving myself a trophy. I'm good, but I'm good enough that I don't need that first place one.
Yeah.
Right. All I got to do is go out there and do it. I'll get a trophy no matter what. Why work harder?
Good is the enemy of great.
Quotes.
I love them.
Quotes.
One-liners.
Well, what else do we have for mindset?
I think we covered. I think we defined them really well. I think we gave some really good strategies. I think in order to understand and try to help other people, I think it's really important to do some self-reflection on like the areas where you may be having those limited beliefs, where you think you're doing really great in the growth. And I think a lot of that just comes back to like, where am I at? Where am I at on my journey through life? Where have I had some challenges? And I think having that holistic approach helps you grow, and it helps like other people around you. I think the biggest thing for people is if you want to be a person of influence, or you want to be a leader, you want to rise above, is doing the things that you want to do. Because when you start doing those things, everyone around you starts seeing it. And there's a lot of people that like get into jiu-jitsu, or they see how we interact with the kids and they're like, I want to be a part of that. Yeah. I want to become a coach. I want to start attending classes. And we didn't tell them to do it. Yeah. We just showed up, and we showed up as influences. And, the crazy thing about being in leadership is never once do I hear you say, I'm the leader, I'm the person of influence, I'm the guy. It's just, you just keep showing up and improving every day, and you're improving yourself. And that trickles down to the people that are watching, and they're like, I can do something as well.
John says it right. Like when you have a microphone, whether it's when you have a black belt, you're in front of a group of people, you're around people that look up to you, that were even maybe that they don't even look up to you, right? They look laterally at you. You still have people looking at you, and you still have a microphone, and your words, your actions, your thoughts matter.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, I had something else. I don't know.
That happens.
I don't know. What else, man?
I think I got notes.
Got your notes?
But I think I covered it all.
I got notes.
Talked about flowers and babies, and are they open to different perspectives?
Man, do you think martial arts cultivates a growth mindset better than other sports activities? We often talk about why we think martial arts is like uniquely positioned outside of just athletic development.
Yeah.
Especially our program.
And viewers and listeners, he didn't say better. We said we're unique and different. Yeah. And I think that's important because, and I think we've touched on it before, a lot of other sports and activities, they miss some of the marks and say, I like football, for example, because I played football.
Yeah, I played it
I
too.
think you played football,
Uh-huh.
wrestled, all the sports. And what if you have that kid that really just loves football, but he's not athletically, he's not physically there yet, but he's intellectually, he's emotionally, and he's socially there.
Dude, that was me. I love football. I wasn't fast enough to play any sort of running position, and I wasn't big enough to play on the line. So I played on the line because who's going to give the slow guy the ball?
Yeah. So
I could cause less damage on the line, right?
yeah. So like looking at that, it's like, what are you doing to that particular individual?
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're physically there, but they're not socially there.
Mm.
Maybe they're like a rock star, but they just don't have the social skills. And what our academy and what martial arts does is it incorporates all of that. It's an individual journey. We're part of a team as in like we train as a team, but everyone is like, we're all on the same road. Some people are just walking a little bit faster, and some people, they think of this ascending staircase where people are like trying to climb over each other, and it's like the bottoms are at the bottom, but it's just it's a straight road, and we're all just like going.
Might not feel like it sometimes.
No, that's another podcast. But and so when we look at kids and we look at adults, similar as well. We're just big kids that grew up, and I think martial arts just does a great job of setting the realistic expectation that it's not you versus anyone else. It's just you versus you. Yeah. It's you versus the version of you yesterday.
Well, we try to make it that way, right? Sometimes we get stuck in that thought pattern of everyone else is getting better around me, but I'm not getting better. And to your point, that's what we need to not be focusing on.
Yeah. And in the case that, because we have some members that are like, oh man, they're getting so much better.
We started at the same time and he got my blue belt before me.
Yeah. And we have that. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
You know, like, and you talk about this often. There's like this unwritten rule about not asking about stripes and belts and all that. But you've been highly approachable, but still, well, not a lot of people do. So yeah. We have transparency around rank and belts.
Well, man, it's one of those things like how truthful do you want me to be?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to ask about your rank, you better be ready for truth about it. I'm not gonna be mean about it.
Right.
But I'll give you the truth.
Yeah. And then it's about, well, how often are you training? What are you particularly working on?
Yeah.
You know, like
what's
all the
your
nuance.
Focus span?
Yeah.
How consistent are you?
Yeah. And then I've noticed a lot of it happens to do with on the mat leadership. Like, how do you show up in class?
Yeah.
Are you trying to destroy everyone, or are you just letting like people work?
Yeah.
Are you facilitating other people's growth at the same time you're growing? So there's like a lot of nuance.
Yeah. Like, are you trying to learn when you're at class, or are you just trying to win?
Yeah.
Or are you just trying to wreck people? Or are you just totally out of it that day? Or consistently?
Yeah.
Going through the motions sort of a thing versus trying to work on something. Having intent behind your training. Right? You know, we started off with the definition of mindset are the stories about yourself that you tell yourself, right? And your words matter, your tone, everything matters, right? So does your approach to training, right? Your intent behind it, your intent behind the words in your head. It's all connected. Communication is one of the best spots to start with any challenge that you have. Firm believer. And it's not just external communication. Oftentimes it's how do you communicate with yourself, which leads to your mindset.
Yeah.
I did a really cool exercise once at a personal development meetup group, mastermind of business owners, where we all brought one problem that we have, right? So give me a fictitious problem.
I'm overweight.
Cool. I think you have a communication issue, right? And then you would start with that. And you have to be like, oh, okay, why is it a communication issue? Right? Well, some sort of story that you're telling yourself in your head of why you're overweight. Like, are you overweight? Are you overweight and you just can't ever get any leaner? Right? I just like starting there. Yes, your overweightness might be a genetic abnormality 1000% caused by things outside of your physical ownership and control. But you can change the story that you tell yourself to change your mindset on it.
Right.
So next time you have a problem, tell yourself, I think I have a communication issue.
Love it.
Cool. Anything else before we do our rapid fire questions?
No, I'm ready.
So rapid fire questions. Unofficially sponsored by Element.
I'm going to drink mine too.
When I say unofficially sponsored, I mean, they not sponsor me at all, but I drink a lot of this. Not a lot, like that I'm consuming too much sodium.
A safe amount.
But it is one of our favorite things from all of our hard training jiu-jitsu athletes at our academy.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And I appreciate them for sending me really cool stuff all the time.
They do.
Cool.
Thank you.
So rapid fire question number 1.
Okay.
What's one habit that changed your life?
Doing jiu-jitsu.
What got you to do jiu-jitsu?
I was
like how'd you start that habit?
So
boom, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy.
No. It was a series of small steps for sure. I moved back to the Wisconsin area. I lived in Grafton. Neutral ground was there.
Yep.
I did 2 weeks.
Who brought you in? Anyone? You just showed up yourself?
I just Googled it.
Heard about jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, heard about it.
Let's go try it out.
And then I was like, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then one day I said, nah, I need to do this.
And little did you know that it would turn into a career path.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah, jiu-jitsu was probably the best habit that I sent me on this trajectory, and I wouldn't be sitting here if
put you on what Jocko calls the path.
The path. Love it.
Cool.
You want to do all yours, or do you want to go back?
We'll play ping pong.
All right. If you could swap lives with any cartoon character for a day, who would it be and why?
Cartoon character.
Yeah. We can do anime superheroes as well.
Man. Dude, I think Roadrunner.
Roadrunner?
Dude, Roadrunner.
Beep, beep.
Dude, like he's fast.
Clever.
Super clever. Like ducking traps all the time. Gets a laugh out of it all day, right? Because he spins those, he like reverses and counters those traps on Coyote.
Just so fast.
Man, he's got a branded relationship with Acme Corp.
Yeah.
Right? So he's sponsored athlete, Roadrunner.
I love it.
Jeremy's like, what the hell?
I love that answer.
What's your answer over there? Otto from Rocket Power. Dude, Rocket Power.
So chill.
Wiggity, 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 wiggity.
Yeah, he was.
Remember that?
I missed that show. Mine would be the Hulk, obviously.
Okay. Question number 2. Why the Hulk? That's actually on my list.
Really?
It's actually question number 6. Why the Hulk?
It's a rapid fire.
That's not
answer.
a cartoon character. That's a superhero. But
yeah,
continue.
but he has a cartoon.
Continue.
There's a comic.
Live action.
So the Hulk, I have a really interesting relationship with him as a kid. Oh. Not him. Okay.
Well, Mark Ruffalo or
we'll
he's from Wisconsin.
Cut that out. No, the
cut
comic
it.
book. So Lou Ferrigno, he was
Yeah.
the original Hulk, the TV series, and we didn't have a lot of channels, but we had a channel that had the Incredible Hulk. And when I was a little kid, I would try to rip my shirts off to the point where I wasn't allowed to wear shirts in the house anymore because I would just rip them up. And I just was really fascinated.
You just
at a
ripped
young
up
age.
all your shirts in the house?
Yeah. Like
Oh,
I wasn't
yeah.
strong enough yet, so I would like
Just
cut
stretch them.
I would cut it a little bit. Yeah, I stretched the first couple, but I would like snip them,
cuts.
and then I would just rip them. I'm like, yo.
Would you make sure you had an audience, or you just do it in the mirror?
I would just do it by myself in my room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There go all your shirts.
And then like I just kind of grew like super strong,
Yeah.
and then like as I got older, I appreciated the scientific part of Bruce Banner as well, and him
That
trying
he was
to
a scientist. Do you know the science behind the Hulk is not? It's pseudoscience.
No, it's like real like stuff. It's like gamma radiation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know like what kind of. He just shot with radiation. It was really cool. But yeah, he's always been like my go-to guy.
Cool. Does he inspire you?
Yeah, and when they did the MCU, spoiler alert, there's a smart Hulk and kind of combined like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
strength with the smarts,
Yeah.
and finally like it's like an internal
Dude,
battle.
and Red Hulk's coming out soon.
I know, I'm so excited. I
We'll see.
know,
We'll see how that one is. Marvel's been has some ups
I
and downs
know.
lately here.
We wouldn't have to talk about that. All right, here we go. What's a piece of advice you've ignored but later realized was true?
My mom would always tell me that I was burning the candle at both ends.
Mm,
Well, she wouldn't tell me that I was, but she'd like make sure you don't burn the candle at both ends, right? Um, Man, and the older I get, the more I'm just like, I need recovery time. Like I can work hard. I can burn the candle at both ends, but like man, rest, recovery, sleep, having a day off, having time for free time
yeah,
is incredibly important. I need to prioritize that.
recover.
Next, what's a mindset struggle that you've personally overcome?
A
Do you
mindset
ever get
struggle.
stuck in like a loop at some point in time in your life where like, man, you get stuck in one of those victim mentalities, negative thought patterns, squirrel story?
Yeah, I I have a very dynamic blended family that I made some very at the time decisions that have
Yeah.
impacted the rest of my life, and oftentimes before I started really developing some other strategies, I would say that I was a bad dad.
Mm,
And what I had to and still do is I take every opportunity to make sure that my kids know that they matter, regardless of like how far away or if I'm like on a trip, and I make drastic measures to make sure that they feel supported. And that means long car rides. That
yeah,
means last minute cancellations with stuff at work and
that's cool.
other commitments to make sure like I go to the football game or I go to the musical or I do
Man,
the thing. And so I've given myself grace that I've grown over the last 10
yeah,
years, and that that no matter what, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, that my kids know that their dad loves them.
I love that, man. And I hope you know. I know when I have kids someday that I'll be the same way. I was actually just listening to Jocko did a podcast with his daughter on it, and he said something similar of if you have the opportunity to take your kids out of school for a day or to just like blow off an entire day and do something with them, he's like, do it
Yeah.
because those will create the memories.
Yeah. Those moments, magical moments.
This magic moment.
My turn.
Sandlot, yeah, go.
What's your go-to mantra when life feels overwhelming?
I've done it before and I can do it again.
I
That's
love
like
that one.
literally that simple. Like I've been overwhelmed before and I've got out of it before. And like overwhelming has never like crippled me into the corner or anything like that. I've always figured it out. So I just tell myself, you got it. You've always figured it out. Shitty right now, but it's got to be shitty before it gets great.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked Coach Drew these questions yesterday,
Yeah.
and he gave me goosebumps because he said, "This too shall pass."
This
And
too shall pass.
it gave me goosebumps because that's my
Yeah,
mantra.
you say that all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I got two more for you.
Got it.
Number one advice for raising or coaching resilient kids.
Let them fall. Still support them. Let them get back up.
Cool. Love it.
If you could instantly master any skill or hobby, what would it be?
Man, the first thing that came to my mind was like jujitsu. And then I was like, no, I don't want to. Like, I don't. and this literally just all this thoughts just came through my head. I don't want to instantly master anything because I think that takes the fun away from it. I think the journey to mastery is what's actually worthwhile. And that might be a corny ass answer.
Yeah.
So I'll say breakdancing.
Okay.
Because I feel like that'd be fucking cool to just be able to like, I could just go right there and bust out a breakdance.
Yeah, I felt the same.
But like
way.
anything that matters to me, I want, especially with the time I spend in jiu-jitsu, trying to master jiu-jitsu, whatever that may mean. Like I wouldn't want to instantly master anything.
Breakdancing is a good one. I like that.
I was like just like a backflip, man. I just want to be able to bust a backflip whenever I go and just know I'm not going to break my neck and I'll land on my feet. Yo-yo. Let's bust out a yo-yo and do some yo-yo tricks. My last one. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't coaching.
Not like if you never became a coach, but if you weren't coaching, what would you be doing? It can be. It doesn't even have to be a career path. What would you be doing? I could be flying a kite down at Bradford Beach.
Yeah. If I wasn't involved in coaching, I probably would not do jiu-jitsu as much because jiu-jitsu is hard. I would probably still be like in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Probably sitting at a desk being miserable.
Okay. Oh, so this is like if you've never started jiu-jitsu. Okay. A little bit different take than I was thinking, but continue.
Okay. And then like if I wasn't coaching like all the time.
Yeah. Like what if you've been a coach and then tomorrow you're not coaching? Like what are you doing 6 months from now?
Oh, it's not that. Oh, 6 months from now. I love coaching, so I would probably still be coaching. But if I couldn't pick coaching, I would probably be playing video games.
Cool. What video game?
Right now is Black Ops 6. Just zombies. Just rounds and rounds of zombies just coming after you. It never stops.
Do you just do solo or is this like online multiplayer play with friends?
You can do all of those. Okay. Sometimes you got to do it solo though, because sometimes those random lobbies hold you back.
Yeah.
You got to revive them a bunch of times.
I hear you. You got any more?
I have one more.
One more.
You are stranded on a desert, and you can only bring 3 non-survival items. What's in your bag?
I'm in a desert and I can only bring 3 non-survival items. So nothing that's going to save my life.
Correct.
What would be in my bag?
Yes.
My solo?
You are solo. You can bring Jeremy with you if you want.
Man, I don't know. Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
Solar power charger. Now I get one more. The Switch has preloaded games. I'm
okay.
I'm like,
I'll give it.
I'm outsmarting the genie here.
I'll get it.
Man, a can of Element.
Nice plug. Awesome. That's all I got.
It's not survival because I'm not going to survive off of one, but it'll keep me hydrated for a little bit longer.
A little bit. And it'll taste delicious.
Slow sips. We'll show that in slow-mo.
ASMR.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming back on the podcast. It's always great having you. We're going to make this a regular thing.
We always have great conversations.
Cool. Leave us some reviews, some stars, and send us questions you guys want us to talk about, topics for next time.
Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.